and welcome. In this explainer, we're going to break down a source that gives us 3 really powerful frameworks. These are designed to take all that anxiety you feel in a speaking test and just flip it into pure confidence. So if you've ever wanted to walk out of a test knowing you just completely crushed it, you are in the right place. Let's jump in.
You know that feeling, right? We've all been there. The examiner asks you a question that's a little tricky, and all of a sudden your mind is just a blank screen. It feels like you've got 20 different browser tabs open in your head at once, and your brain just slows to a crawl and freezes. It's a super common problem, but thankfully, it's one we can solve. So what's the solution? Well, it's not about memorizing a million different answers. It's about having a mental toolkit. Think of these frameworks we're about to cover as these reliable, sturdy structures that you can build any answer on. Once you have a solid framework in your back pocket, you'll never feel lost or caught off guard again, I promise. Okay, first up is the PAL method. I gotta say, this one's probably my favorite. It's so simple, but incredibly effective. And most importantly, it's easy to remember when you're under pressure. This is gonna be your go-to framework for any question that asks for your opinion. It helps you build a really clear, strong, and well-supported point of view. So what does PAL actually stand for? It's an acronym, right? P is for point. You just start by stating your main idea, nice and simple. A is for elaborate. Here's where you explain that point. You give a reason, you provide an example, and L is for level up. This is where you really make your answer shine. You add more depth, maybe a long-term benefit, or you contrast your idea with another one to round it all out. Now, the strategy here is what makes this so powerful. The most important step is to just pick one point. Not 5, not 3, just one. Whatever feels easiest for you to talk about. Remember, this is not an IQ test. From there, you elaborate with one goal. Help the examiner understand what you mean. And finally, you level up by adding just a little more value, and suddenly you've got this really comprehensive answer. Let's see how this works in a real example. So a student was asked if it's better to buy a house or to rent one. Her point was super simple. It's better to buy. Her elaboration was that you're investing your money instead of just handing it over to a landlord. And then for her level up, she contrasted it with renting, saying that in the long run, renting is basically just wasting money. See that? A perfect flow. Point, elaboration, level up. All right, let's move on to our next tool, the 1, 2, 3 method. This is your secret weapon for those really tricky questions. You know, the ones where there isn't one simple, clear answer. It's for when you feel like you're at a crossroads and there are a couple of valid viewpoints. What's great about the 1, 2, 3 method is that it turns a problem into an opportunity. Instead of getting stuck between 2 opposing ideas, this framework actually lets you explore both sides. It shows the examiner that you can think critically and come to a really sophisticated, nuanced conclusion. Just think about questions like these for a second. Should you always be empathetic, or are there times you need to be brutally honest? Is it better to travel by yourself or with other people? I mean, there's no single right answer for these, and that is exactly where the 1, 2, 3 method comes in handy. The structure here is just super simple and logical. Step 1, you just acknowledge that there are 2 sides to the coin. Step 2, you briefly discuss both of those sides, showing you get where each perspective is coming from. And then step 3, this is the crucial part. You find the third way. This is where you conclude that, you know what, neither side is always right. It really just depends on the context or the situation. So let's look at this in action. A student was asked about being empathetic versus being honest. He started by talking about why empathy is so important. That's side 1. Then he talked about the need to be honest with people who are being rude. That's side 2. His conclusion was that third way. It just depends on the context. That's a high-level answer right there, and it fully develops the idea. Okay, on to our final framework, the AAA method. And this one is all about becoming a powerful storyteller. It's especially useful for part 2 of a speaking test. You know, when you're often asked to describe a person, a place, or some experience from your life. The source material has this great little trick to remember this one. Think of AAA like anti-aircraft guns, ready to shoot down any question the examiner throws at you. The first A is to answer the question directly. The second A is to add detail. And the third A is for anecdote, where you tell a great story. The flow here is really important. You start with the direct answer, just to get your brain focused. Then you add key details to kind of set the scene and give your story some substance. And then finally, once the stage is set, you launch right into your anecdote.
The thing is, we're all natural storytellers, and this structure just helps you tap into that skill even when you're feeling the pressure. Now, when it comes to adding detail, don't overthink it. Just use this simple toolkit right here. Ask yourself, who was there? What happened? Why was it important? Where and when did it happen? Just answering these simple questions gives your story that rich detail it needs to be really engaging. And here it is in a real-life example. A student answered directly, describing the first time she met a new friend. She added details like the setting was her kindergarten and the other girl had braided hair. Then she told this absolutely unforgettable anecdote about giving a thumbs up to ask to be friends and getting a thumbs down back. It's detailed, it's personal, and you're not going to forget it. So there you have it, 3 distinct but equally powerful frameworks. The key takeaway here isn't just about memorizing them. It's about understanding them as a versatile toolkit. The real skill is knowing which tool to pull out for which job, or in this case, for which question.
So let's just do a super quick recap. You're going to use the PAL method when you need to state a clear opinion. You'll use the 1, 2, 3 method when you're faced with one of those complex questions with 2 valid sides, and you're going to pull out the AAA method whenever you get an invitation to tell a personal story. With these 3 in your toolkit, you are ready for pretty much anything. So now you have the frameworks to build some truly incredible answers. But the source material leaves us with this one final, pretty provocative thought. Even with the absolute best tools, you might not get the score you deserve if you fall for the traps that examiners sometimes set. So the question is,